The Coalition fleet hung in perfect formation around the dead star like silent guardians, waiting for a miracle. 12 great ships from 12 different species gleamed under the faint light of the dying sun. Each vessel carried the best minds and the last hopes of entire civilizations. The stars around them had grown cold and empty. Resources vanished, plagues spread, void anomalies swallowed whole sectors. The galaxy itself seemed tired and ready to sleep forever. Only one place remained that might save them all: the sanctuary of Ilara V. No one had seen the sanctuary open in 47,000 years. Legends spoke of it as the final gift from the first ones, a sphere as large as a solar system built to hold infinite life, perfect safety, endless knowledge, and power. But entry came with a price. The obsidian gate would scan the heart of anyone who approached. Only those whose spirit proved worthy could pass. All others received silence, or worse, rejection. The Luminar ship led the approach. Its crystal hull sang soft light across the void. The Luminar were beings of pure clarity. No dark thoughts clouded their minds. They lived in harmony with light and logic. Their chosen representative floated forward in a sphere of glowing crystal. He offered serenity without flaw. The gate did not move. A red pulse flashed once and faded. The Luminar returned without a word. Next came the Vorath. Their vessel looked like a living hive made of black chitin. Thousands of connected minds spoke as one. No single voice ever rose above the chorus. Their representative stepped out as a shifting mass of limbs and eyes. They presented unity without ego, complete agreement in every thought. The gate answered with the same red flash: no entry. The Synthex followed. Machines of silver and deep blue walked in perfect lines. Their minds ran on flawless code. Emotions had been removed long ago as useless noise. Their leader advanced without hesitation, offering pure reason and zero conflict. Light answered again. The Synthex turned back without anger or surprise. One by one the others tried. The graceful Aelori, with their songs of endless peace. The armored Kren, who valued duty above all life. The silent Zythar, who had learned to feel nothing at all. Each offered what they believed was perfection. Each received the same cold refusal. The Coalition gathered again on the command deck of the largest ship, frustration growing like a storm. No one spoke of failure, yet the word hung heavy in every mind. Then a new signature appeared on the sensors. A small, battered ship limped into view. Its hull showed scars from plasma burns and asteroid strikes. Engines coughed unevenly. Life support flickered at low power. The ship carried the mark of a human exploratory vessel from the Rim colonies. The aliens watched in silence. Some laughed quietly. Others turned away in disgust. Humans, they came uninvited, late and broken. Captain Maravaz stood on her bridge, looking at the massive gate. Through the cracked view screen, her crew of 6 moved around her quietly. No one complained, no one suggested retreat. They had lost their home colony 3 months earlier. Pirates had glassed the surface, leaving nothing but ash and memory. Mara had pulled her people out on the last working shuttle. Now this was all they had left. The Coalition hailed them. The Luminar speaker appeared on the screen, his voice calm and sharp. This place is not for your kind. Return to your sector, or be removed. Mara crossed her arms. We have no sector left. We have nowhere else. The Vorath voice joined in, layered and cold. Your presence disrupts the balance. Leave now. Mara looked at her first officer, an old engineer named Reyes. He gave a small nod. She turned back to the screen. We did not come to fight. We came to try, like you. Laughter echoed across the channel. The Kren delegate rumbled low. Humans think their chaos qualifies as worth. The gate will spit you out faster than the rest. Mara smiled, thin and tired. Maybe. But we still have to try. The aliens cut the link. They returned to their plans. Some spoke of forcing the gate with weapons. Others argued for more rituals. The human ship stayed where it was, small and stubborn against the wall of greater vessels. Night cycle came to the fleet, though no sun rose or set. Artificial lights dimmed across the ships. Crews rested or prayed or stared at the gate in silence. Mara walked the narrow corridors of her ship, checking on each person. She found the young medic Lila sitting alone, staring at a hollow of her lost family. Mara sat beside her without speaking. They stayed like that for a long time. On the Coalition flagship, the debate grew louder. The Synthex calculated probabilities of success at 0.003%. The Aelori sang warnings of imbalance. The Kren demanded action. Weapons powered up across the fleet, targeting arrays locked on the obsidian surface. Then, the sensors screamed. A new energy spike came from the gate itself. Not red, not rejection, something else. Low hums rolled through the void. The Coalition froze. All eyes turned toward the black sphere. Mara felt it too. A vibration deep in her chest. She stood up straight and looked at her crew. They nodded, one by one. No words needed. They knew what came next. The gate had not opened, not yet, but it had noticed something. For the first time in 47,000 years, the sanctuary looked back at the small broken ship from the rim. And it waited. The Coalition saw the change too. Panic spread among them. They had come with fleets and wisdom and purity, yet the gate stirred only now, only when the humans arrived. The Luminar speaker reopened the channel. This is impossible. Your species carries every flaw known to life. Mara answered quietly. Maybe that is why it woke up. The hum grew louder. Lights began to trace faint patterns across the obsidian surface. Ancient symbols no one could read glowed for a moment, then faded. The fleet held its breath. The human ship drifted closer, inch by inch, engines straining but steady. Captain Mara Voss turned to her people. We do this together. No one goes alone. They prepared to launch the shuttle, not because they expected success, but because turning away now would mean giving up the last thing they still had. Hope. The gate waited. The stars watched. The galaxy held its breath. And somewhere deep inside the ancient structure, a long-forgotten judgment began to turn toward the only heart that still carried every scar, every hope, and every contradiction without breaking. The humans moved forward, not as conquerors, not as the pure or the perfect, but as the last ones who remembered how to feel everything and still choose to protect instead of destroy. And that was enough to make the sanctuary listen. The Coalition fleet formed a tight circle around the obsidian gate, tension thick enough to cut with a blade. Every ship powered down non-essential systems to save energy for what came next. The aliens had agreed on order of trials. Luminar first, then Vorath, then Synthex, and so on down the line, until every species had faced the heartweave. No one wanted to go last, but everyone knew someone had to. The humans stayed back, their small ship drifting like a shadow at the edge of the formation. No one invited them to join the line. They did not ask. The Luminar representative moved first. A single being of living crystal, named Liral, floated toward the gate in a sphere of soft white light. His form shimmered with every color of the spectrum, yet never held anger or fear. The heartweave field wrapped around him, invisible but heavy. The chamber inside the gate lit up, showing memories to all who watched. Liral as a young crystal, growing in perfect harmony, learning songs of unity. The path of light. The display showed no shadows, no hidden doubts, only endless clarity. The gate voice spoke after a long pause. Incomplete. The red flash came sharp and final. Liral floated back to his ship without protest. The Luminar crew accepted the judgment as fact. Their perfection had not been enough. The Vorath came next. Their representative was a walking cluster called Unity 9, a mass of linked bodies that moved as one mind. Thousands of eyes blinked in perfect rhythm. No single thought ever stood alone. They stepped into the chamber, offering the strength of total agreement. The Heartweave showed their history, endless cycles of consensus decisions, made without argument, without loss, without regret. The display searched deeper, looking for cracks. A faint image appeared. One small Vorath mind long ago, wanting more food than the hive allowed. It had been corrected quickly, but the memory lingered like a scar. Unity 9 had buried it deep. The gate voice answered, fragmented. Beneath the surface. Red light pulsed again. The cluster retreated, bodies shifting in quiet confusion, for the first time in generations. The Synthex sent their prime unit, designated Logic Prime A. It walked on 6 precise legs, metal gleaming under the starlight. No emotion circuits existed in its frame, only clean code running at maximum efficiency. The chamber scanned it, showing endless streams of data, flawless calculations, zero deviation. The display searched for feeling and found nothing at all. The gate spoke. Cold, unliving, red flash followed without delay. Logic Prime A turned and marched back, circuits already recalculating the next approach. The Alories sang their way forward. 3 beings linked by harmonic fields, voices rising in a melody older than most stars. Their offering was peace through song, beauty without end. The Heartweave revealed their past concerts across galaxies, where they calmed wars with music, yet buried notes showed pride in their gift, a quiet belief that other species needed their help, because they could not help themselves. The gate judged pride masks as generosity. Red light ended the song. The Kren lumbered up next, heavy armored warriors who lived for duty and sacrifice. Their champion carried the scars of 100 battles, each wound earned protecting the weak. The chamber displayed loyalty beyond measure, yet it also showed moments when duty turned to control, when protection became domination, when the line between guardian and ruler blurred. The gate voice rumbled, duty twisted by power. Red flash, the Kren stepped back, fists clenched, but honor kept them silent. The Zythar tried in their way, silent shadows who had trained themselves to feel nothing at all. Their representatives stood motionless, offering emptiness as purity. The Heartweave dug deep and found the training itself born from terror long ago, when emotion had nearly destroyed their world. They suppressed feeling, not from wisdom, but from fear. The gate answered, fear disguised as detachment. Red light closed the door. One after another the rest came, the tall, graceful Vereen who valued beauty above survival, the insectoid Myrrh who lived only for the colony queen, the methane breathers from the gas giants who shared thoughts through chemical bonds. Each offered what they thought the first ones wanted. Each failed. The red flashes came faster now, like heartbeats counting down to nothing. The coalition deck filled with low murmurs, anger, frustration, despair. Weapons hummed louder. Targeting systems stayed hot. Some delegates whispered of breaking the gate. Others spoke of leaving before shame consumed them all. Through it all, the human ship remained quiet. No boasts, no demands. Mara Voss watched every trial from her bridge. Her crew gathered around her. Reyes, the engineer, wiped grease from his hands. Leela, the medic, held a small holo of her lost sister, tight against her chest. The pilot, Jax, stared at the gate with hard eyes. None of them spoke much. They simply watched. Waited. A Kren delegate opened a channel to the human ship. His voice carried mockery. Your turn approaches, little ones. Shall we watch your chaos fail faster than the rest? Mara answered calm. We will go when the line reaches us. Not before, not after. The Kren laughed deep and rough. Your hearts are storms of greed and rage. The Heartweave will tear you apart. Mara looked straight into the screen. Maybe, but storms sometimes bring rain when everything else is dry. The channel closed. The aliens turned back to their arguments. Some wanted to combine their essences into one final offering. Others prepared boarding pods, loaded with cutting tools and energy lances. The Synthex ran simulations showing a 78% chance of gate damage and 0 chance of entry. The debate grew loud, voices overlapping in every language. Mara turned to her crew. "We see what they are doing. They think more perfection will work. They think removing flaws will open door." Reyes grunted. "They spent thousands of years polishing themselves. We spent thousands of years surviving." Leela spoke soft. "They forgot how to hurt. They forgot how to care when it cost something." Jax added, "And we never had the chance to forget." Mara nodded. Once more, they finished the last trial. The final species, a collective of energy beings called the Lumen, stepped back with red light burning in their cores. The line ended. No one left to try except the humans. The coalition turned as one toward the small, battered ship. Silence fell across every channel. Every sensor locked on the humans. The gate waited, dark and still. The hum from earlier had faded, but the air felt heavier now, charged with something ancient, waking up. Mara stood up straight. She looked at each crew member in turn. No one looked away. She spoke quiet, but firm. "We do not go because we think we are better. We go because we have nothing left to lose and everything left to protect. A perfect heart. It will stay closed. If it wants something real, then maybe, just maybe, it will listen." The crew moved to the shuttle bay. No ceremony, no speeches. They simply prepared to cross the void. One small craft against the biggest mystery in the galaxy. The aliens watched, some with pity, some with scorn, a few with curiosity. The Kren delegate reopened the channel. "Last chance, humans. Turn back now. Save yourselves the shame." Mara smiled, small and real. "Shame is something we know well. We carry it every day, and we still get up, we still try, we still protect the people next to us, even when it hurts." She cut the link. The shuttle bay doors opened. The tiny craft drifted out, engines flaring weak but steady. It moved toward the gate, slow and deliberate. No weapons, no shields worth mentioning. Just 6 humans who had lost their home, their families, their future, and still refused to give up. The Heartweave field stirred again. Invisible waves rolled across the void, brushing them. Shuttle like a question. The coalition held its breath. The gate had rejected every form of purity, every kind of unity, every version of control. Now it faced the only thing left untouched. Raw, unbroken human contradiction. The shuttle reached the chamber entrance. Mara stepped out first, spacesuit patched in 20 places. She looked back at her crew. They followed close behind. No one stayed behind. The 6 of them stood together, facing the dark mouth of the gate. The heartweave wrapped around them all at once. The chamber lit up brighter than before. Memories began to flow. Not clean, not perfect, but real. And the ancient structure deep inside started to remember what true really meant. The small shuttle floated into the wide, dark mouth of the gate, engines cutting off with a soft whine. Mara Voss stepped out first, her boots touching the smooth black floor of the chamber. The rest of her crew followed close. Reyes, Lila Jax, the 2 quiet gunners named Tomas and Sarah, and the young navigator Kai. They stood together in a loose circle facing the empty space ahead. No one reached for weapons. No one spoke. The heartweave field rolled over them like warm wind, carrying the faint smell of ozone and old metal. Lights came on slow at first, then brighter. The chamber walls glowed soft blue, showing nothing at first, just smooth curves and faint lines like veins under skin. Then the display began. Memories rose up around them, large and clear, floating in the air for everyone to see. Not just the humans, but the entire coalition fleet, watching through linked sensors. The aliens leaned forward on their bridges, some curious, some angry, some afraid. First came Mara as a child. Then 7, standing in the dust of a mining colony on a red world. Her parents worked deep shafts, pulling ore to feed the family. The collapse happened fast. Rock fell like thunder, burying them alive. Mara screamed until her throat bled. She dug with bare hands until rescuers pulled her away, bloody and shaking. The memory showed her small face streaked with tears and dirt, eyes wide with pain that never really left. The coalition murmured. Some aliens looked away. Others watched harder, thinking this proved human weakness. Next memory shifted. Mara at 16, fighting in the streets of a burning colony. Pirates had come for the water reserves. She held a rifle too big for her arms, firing at shadows to cover her friend's retreat. One friend fell, bleeding from a gut shot. Mara dragged him 2 blocks through fire and smoke, whispering, "Stay with me, stay with me." He died in her arms anyway. She kept fighting until the pirates left. She never cried in front of anyone. Now showing years in flashes. Training camps, where instructors broke recruits down to build them up again. Mara learning to shoot, to fly, to patch wounds, to lead. She lost more people. A lover in a boarding action, a squad in a radiation storm. Each death carved lines in her face. Each one taught her something new about holding on. Then came the day she became captain. Her first command, a small scout ship. She took it into pirate territory to rescue a stranded freighter full of civilians. The pirates demanded surrender. Mara refused. She fought them off, losing half her crew in the process. When the last pirate ship limped away, she found their leader still alive on the wreck. She could have finished him. She saw the child hiding behind him, small and terrified. Mara lowered her weapon. She took the child instead and left the warlord to die slow from his wounds. The aliens stirred louder now. Voices rose across channels. This is barbarity. This is proof of their flaw. Breath. How can such contradiction be worthy? The memories kept coming. Nights alone in her cabin after losses. Mara sitting with a bottle staring at stars, crying quiet so no one heard. Days when she laughed with her crew, telling stupid jokes to keep spirits up. Moments when she chose mercy over revenge, when she shared the last ration, when she stayed behind so others could escape. The heartweave showed it all, raw and unfiltered. No polish, no excuses, just a woman who carried rage and grief and love in the same chest, and never let any of them win completely. The chamber hummed louder now. The blue glow shifted to gold, faint at first, then stronger. The aliens fell silent, watching the change. The gate voice had not spoken yet, but the air felt thick with waiting. Mara stepped forward, 1 pace. Her crew stayed close behind her. She looked up at the ceiling, where the light came from, and spoke quiet but clear. We are not perfect. We never claimed to be. We hurt, we hate, we love, we break, and we fix ourselves again. We protect because we know what loss feels like. We forgive because we need forgiveness too. If that is not enough, then close the door. We will find another way. The hum became a deep vibration shaking the floor. The gold light spread across the walls, climbing higher. The display froze on one last memory. Mara on the bridge of her battered ship, looking at her crew after they lost their home colony. She did not promise victory. She promised only this: we keep going together. No one left behind. The chamber shook harder. Ancient mechanisms long asleep began to wake. Deep inside the Dyson sphere, gears turned, lights flickered on across empty habitats. Power surged through forgotten conduits. The gate voice finally spoke, slow and clear, like thunder rolling across space. Conflict, rage, mercy, grief, love without reason, hate turned to protection, selfishness twisted into sacrifice. Again and again, the words hung in the air, echoing through every ship, them perfect, in their own language. No translation needed. The light pulsed once, twice, then steady, bright gold. True. The word rang out, loud enough to rattle teeth. The obsidian gate cracked open with a sound like breaking stone. A thin line of white light appeared at the center, then widened, slow and deliberate, revealing corridors beyond gardens, habitats, stars, inside a sphere where no star should burn. The sanctuary woke fully, for the first time in 47,000 years. Mara stood still, staring at the opening. Her crew gathered closer. Reyes put a hand on her shoulder. Leela wiped tears. Jack smiled, small and real. Tomas and Sarah looked at each other in wonder. Kai whispered something soft that no one caught. The coalition fleet exploded into noise, shouts of disbelief, anger, confusion, joy from a few, fear from most. The Luminar speaker tried to hail the gate, demanding explanation. The Vorath sent urgent consensus packets. The Synthex ran frantic calculations. Mattered. The gate had spoken. True, and it had opened not for perfection, but for something else entirely. Mara turned to her people. We did not come here to take this place. We came to survive. If it lets us in, then we share it, with everyone who needs it. They stepped forward together into the light. The chamber floor moved, carrying them deeper into the sanctuary. The air smelled clean like rain on green fields. Distant sounds came to them, birds singing, water flowing, wind through leaves, things no one had heard in this part of the galaxy for ages. Behind them, the gates stayed open, wide and waiting. The coalition ships hesitated. Some moved closer, others held back. The aliens watched the small group of humans disappear into the glow, and they knew something fundamental had shifted. The ones who carried every contradiction still chose to protect. The ones who never erased their scars still found room for kindness. The messy, stubborn human heart had done what polished purity could not. It had triggered, true, and with that one word, the last refuge in a dying galaxy belonged not to the flawless, but to those who learned to live with their flaws and still reach out to save the next person standing beside them. The sanctuary opened its arms, not because humanity was the best, but because humanity was the only one left who remembered how to feel everything, and still choose good anyway. The white light from the open gate swallowed Mara and her crew, pulling them deeper into the heart of the sanctuary corridors. Stretched out wide and clean air, fresh with the scent of growing things. Walls glowed soft gold, showing patterns that moved like living rivers. Far ahead, vast open spaces appeared. Habitats the size of small worlds. Green fields, forests, lakes, rivers, mountains, under artificial suns that felt real enough to warm skin. The Dyson sphere came alive section by section, power flowing through ancient lines that had slept for 47,000 years. Mara walked forward, boots echoing on the smooth floor. Her crew stayed close, eyes wide, taking in everything. Reyes touched a wall, feeling faint warmth. Leela breathed deep, smelling flowers she had not seen since childhood. Jax kept one hand near his sidearm out of habit, but his face showed wonder. Tomas and Sarah pointed at distant flying shapes that looked like birds. Kai whispered, "This cannot be real," but his voice held hope instead of doubt. Then shapes appeared ahead, tall figures of light and metal, ancient caretakers, constructs left by the first ones to guard and explain. They moved with quiet grace, bodies shifting between solid and energy forms. They stopped in a half circle, bowing low, heads almost touching the ground. The lead caretaker spoke, voice calm and deep, like wind through old trees. "Welcome those who are true. The sanctuary opens for you, and through you, for all who learn." Mara stepped closer. "We did not come to rule, we came because we had no home left." The caretaker nodded. "We know your heart, we saw every scar, every choice. The heart weave does not lie, it reveals what is deepest. The first ones built this place not for the flawless, but for the resilient. They sought a spirit that holds opposites without breaking. Rage and mercy, hate and love, selfishness and sacrifice, fear and courage, all at once. Most species remove one side or the other. They polish away the dark, or bury the light. Become hive or machine, or light without shadow. They forget the weight of feeling. The aliens from the Coalition fleet had followed slowly, their larger shuttles landing now in the entry bays. Representatives stepped out, hesitant. Luminar, Vorath, Synthex, Alori, Kren, Zythar, and the rest. They gathered at the edge of the great chamber, staring at the humans, surrounded by bowing caretakers. Silence hung heavy, then broke into murmurs, some angry, some lost, some beginning to understand. The lead caretaker raised one glowing hand, turning to the gathered aliens. You offered purity, we rejected you. You offered unity, we saw cracks. You offered logic, we found no life. You offered peace, we found hidden pride. You offered duty, we found control. You offered emptiness, we found fear. The sanctuary tests hearts, not for absence of flaw, but for the strength to carry flaw and still choose protection. Still choose connection, still choose growth through pain. A Luminar delegate floated forward, flickering with agitation. We are complete without shadow. Why is that not enough? The caretaker answered, because completeness without contrast is stillness. A crystal shines, but does not feel. A hive agrees, but does not struggle. A machine calculates, but does not care. True resilience grows only where contradiction lives, only where the heart must fight itself, every day, to do what is right, even when it hurts. A Vorath cluster shifted uneasily. We are one mind, no division, no pain. Why is division better? Because division teaches empathy. When you feel alone, you learn to see loneliness in others. When you hurt, you recognize hurt. When you fail, you value success earned through trying again. The human heart holds war and peace in the same chest. It chooses peace, not because it knows nothing of war, but because it knows war too well. The Synthex Prime unit stepped forward, lights blinking. We removed emotion to achieve clarity. Why is emotion required? Tempers the blade. Without it you have steel, but no edge, no purpose. Logic alone builds tools. Hearts alone give those tools meaning. The first ones learned this late. They watched species rise and fall. The ones who erased feeling faded. The ones who embraced every feeling yet chose kindness survived longer. They built the sanctuary to find the next who could endure. The Kren champion rumbled low. We protect, we sacrifice. Why were we refused? You protect from duty, you sacrifice from honor. But when duty becomes control, when honor blinds you to the weak who do not fit your code, then protection turns to chains. True protection comes from shared pain, from knowing you could be the one in need. Mara listened to every word. She looked at her crew, then at the aliens. She spoke quiet but firm. We never tried to be perfect. We could not afford it. Our worlds were hard, our enemies real, our mistakes costly. We learned to live with guilt and still get up. We learned to forgive and still remember. Learned to love, knowing it could end in loss every day. We chose to shield the person next to us, because tomorrow it might be us needing the shield. That is all we have. The caretaker turned back to her. Your choice triggered true, because it was honest, not because it was clean. The sanctuary opens widest for those who prove the heart can bend without breaking, can contain darkness, and still reach for light. Lights cascaded across the sphere. New sections bloomed. Gardens unfolded in seconds. Trees grew tall in minutes. Rivers filled. Lakes sparkled. Animals appeared from hidden vaults. Archives unlocked, showing knowledge from the first ones and beyond. Power sources hummed. Infinite clean energy. Habitats adjusted temperature, gravity, air to fit any species. Food grew, ready to harvest. Water flowed pure. Everything needed for life without end. The aliens moved closer. Some knelt. Others stood frozen. A few reached out, touching leaves, feeling real bark under fingers. Tears came to eyes. trained not to cry. Voices rose in wonder, in argument, in slow acceptance. Mara looked at the caretaker. What happens now? The caretaker answered, the sanctuary belongs to no one, and to all. You triggered the lock, but the refuge is for any who learn from your example. Those who stay must open their hearts, must face what they buried, must choose connection over isolation. The humans will teach, because they never forgot how to feel. The others will learn because they see what happens when feeling returns. Reyes spoke gruff. We are not teachers, we are just survivors. The caretaker smiled. Faint light. You survive because you feel, because you care, because you protect. That is the lesson the galaxy needs most now. The coalition representatives gathered tighter. Some argued, still others began to listen. A luminar being dimmed, his light letting a shadow of doubt show for the first time. A Vorath cluster separated, one small part speaking alone. A synthex unit allowed a single, uncertain loop in its code. The change started small, but real. Mara turned to her crew, then to the aliens. We share this place not because we earned it alone, but because we proved something the rest of you can learn. We all lost homes. We all face the end. If we stay separate here, we rebuild together, not as masters or servants, but as people who hurt and heal together. The great chamber filled with soft sound, wind through leaves, distant water, voices mixing in many languages for the first time without command or fear. The sanctuary breathed alive around them, a promise kept after endless waiting. Mara walked to the edge of a new garden, sat on soft grass. Her crew joined her. The aliens followed slower, sitting, standing, watching, learning. The first step had been taken, not by the pure, but by the scarred, not by the flawless, but by the stubborn human heart that refused to stop caring even when everything hurt. And in that moment, the galaxy found its last chance, not in perfection, but in the messy, beautiful choice to be good anyway. Months passed, inside the sanctuary. Time flowed different here. Days stretched gentle under warm artificial suns. Nights came soft, with stars painted on the inner sky. The Dyson sphere held billions of hectares of living space, now filled, slowly at first, then faster as more came. The humans stayed near the central gardens, simple homes built from smart materials that grew like plants. Mara Voss walked the paths every morning, checking on newcomers. Her crew scattered now, helping where needed. Reyes fixed water systems, Leela taught basic medicine, Jax trained pilots, Tomas and Sarah scouted empty sectors, Kai mapped new habitats that appeared each week, like gifts from the caretakers. The aliens changed slow but steady at first. Many kept to their own zones, building crystal spires or hive nests, or logic grids, separate from the rest. They watched the humans from distance, seeing how they laughed, how they argued, how they helped without being asked. A luminar being named Lyrael started visiting. Human area. One day, he dimmed his light, letting faint shadows show on his crystal skin. He sat with Mara under a tree and asked quiet, "Why do you forgive so easily when others hurt you?" Mara looked at the leaves moving in the breeze. Because holding hate forever hurts more than the original wound. We forgive to free ourselves, not them. It does not mean we forget. It means we choose not to let the past poison the now. Lyral stayed longer each day. Soon others followed. A Vorath cluster separated into smaller groups. One part even chose a single name for itself, calling itself Echo. It spoke alone, sometimes tasting the strangeness of having its own thoughts. A synthex unit allowed random loops in its code, small errors that looked like curiosity. It asked Reyes why humans tell jokes when logic says pain should silence humor. Reyes laughed, because sometimes the only way to fight the dark is to laugh at it first. The Kren warriors put down their heavy armor in the training fields. sparred, gentle, teaching young ones from other species how to defend without crushing a Zythar shadow. Being learned to speak, one word at a time, feeling the weight of each sound on its tongue. The Alories sang not just perfect harmony, but songs with broken notes, songs of loss and return. The Virene planted flowers that were not the most beautiful, but the hardiest. The Mer shared food with strangers instead of only the queen. The changes spread like roots under soil, quiet, deep, unstoppable. Mara watched it all from a hill overlooking the main valley. One evening her crew gathered around a fire, old habit from Rimworlds where heat meant safety. Leela leaned against Jax. Reyes poked the flames with a stick. Tomas told a story about a pirate chase that ended in everyone laughing. Sarah added details that made it funnier. Kai listened wide-eyed. Below them, aliens mixed in groups. Some sat listening to human stories, others shared their own. Illuminar being told of a time before light. Ancestors feared the dark. A Vorath mind admitted it once dreamed alone and felt shame. The Synthex unit calculated the exact moment hope returned to a dying world, and why the numbers mattered less than the feeling. The caretakers walked among them now, less like guards, more like guides. They spoke less explaining, more listening. The sanctuary adjusted itself. Habitats shifted to fit moods. Gardens bloomed with colors that soothed angry hearts. Rivers ran slower when grief needed time. Air carried scents that reminded people of lost homes. Everything helped healing, without forcing it. One day a great meeting happened in the central dome. Thousands gathered. Humans, aliens, caretakers, all together. Mara stood at the front, not as leader, but as the one who triggered the door. She spoke simple words. We came here broken. We found a place that let us mend. Not by erasing what hurt us, but by facing it together. We are not special. We are just the ones who never stopped trying to be better, even when it was hard. The sanctuary did not choose us because we were best. It chose us because we proved a heart can carry everything and still choose kindness. The dome filled with sound, not cheers, but quiet agreement. Voices in many tongues saying, yes, we see now, we learn now. After that, the sanctuary grew busier. Ships from dying sectors arrived daily. Not fleets, but small groups. Refugees like the humans had been. Each new arrival faced the heartweave, not to judge, but to understand. The caretakers guided them, showing memories of the first opening, how contradiction became the key, how humanity bridged the gap. Some failed the test at first, refusing to feel, refusing to connect. They stayed in isolation zones until ready. Others opened fast, finding relief in tears, in laughter, in simple touch. The sphere held room for all kinds. The sanctuary never turned anyone away. Once true had been spoken, its rule was clear. Heal, learn, connect, protect. Years turned into decades inside the timeless sphere. Children grew, born from every species, some with human stubbornness, some with alien grace. They played together, learning each other's ways, fighting sometimes, making up faster. The old grudges faded like smoke. New stories took their place, stories of shared survival, shared joy, shared pain. Mara grew older, hair turning silver, lines deeper around her eyes. She walked slower, but still walked every path, checking on people she found. Lirael one day sitting alone, letting full shadow cover half his form. He smiled, small. Thank you for showing us how to feel again. Mara sat beside him. We showed each other. I learned your calm. You learned my fire. We all got better. On her last day, Mara lay in the garden she loved best, crew around her, old now, but still together. Reyes held her hand. Leela wiped her face. Jax told a bad joke that made her smile one last time. The caretakers stood close, light soft. She looked up at the painted stars and spoke quiet. We did not come as the best, as the ones who still had working hearts, and that was enough. Her breath slowed, then stopped peaceful. The crew stayed with her until the end, then carried her to the place she chose, under the tree where she first talked to Lirael. They planted seeds there, knowing new life would grow. The sanctuary kept going stronger, now filled with voices from every corner of the old galaxy. The void anomalies slowed, the plagues weakened, the stars burned brighter again, not because of machines or light or unity alone, but because hearts opened, learned to hold opposites, chose connection over fear. The title of the place changed in stories told by new generations. Sanctuary tests hearts, only human triggers true, but over time the last part softened to only human showed the way. Because humanity did not stay the key, they became the example, the messy, scarred, stubborn example, that reminded everyone a heart works best when it feels everything and still reaches out. Steady, sure, not perfect, never perfect, but good enough, because good enough was what humans had always fought for, and now everyone fought for it together. And in the quiet center of the sphere, under endless stars, the first tree Mara helped plant still stood tall, roots deep, branches wide, sheltering all who came to rest, reminding them of the simple truth that saved everything. A heart does not need to be flawless to be true. It just needs to keep beating, to keep caring, to keep choosing love, even when the universe tries to take it away. That was the lesson the sanctuary taught, and humanity proved, and the rest of the galaxy finally learned.